Michael Van Runkle here for HotCars.com. I'm out in the middle of nowhere with a 2022 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. Now, it got a little dirty on the way out here, but it still stands out in nature thanks to this bright green paint job that Toyota calls Lime Rush. Now, if you're a child of the 90s like I am, maybe this paint job reminds you a little bit of that soda that was like Mountain Dew times 10 called Surge. And in a way, the 4Runner is sort of a holdover from that bygone era. It's a body-on-frame SUV with an underpowered V6 and a 5-speed automatic transmission. I'm gonna walk you through some of the things that I like about the 4Runner inside and out, and some of the weird decisions Toyota made while choosing which options to equip on each of the 8 different 4Runners you can buy right now. So I'm gonna pick up the camera, but first please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. Thanks. Let's start on the outside here at the front end, where you can see that Toyota got this nice angular headlight thing going on to try and make it look more modern. And of course, because this is the TRD Pro, we get an aluminum skid plate and some recovery hooks there for if you get stuck off-roading. Those tires are Nitto Terra Grappler all-terrains, and they do pretty well. 17-inch wheels, 265 wide tires. They're not the biggest, but they're not the smallest, and they're relatively quiet on the asphalt. They are 31.6 inches large, so they're like a big 31 or a small 32. And that sort of stands out because everyone these days is going 33s, 35s. The new Bronco Raptor is on 37s from the factory, which is just absolutely insane. They've got disc brakes all around, unlike the Tacoma, which for 2022, somehow still has drum brakes. But one confusing little part you can see here is that the gas tank under there, giving us some pretty low ground clearance. Maybe 33s would have been a better idea just to get this thing a little higher off the ground. And I'm not even aired down yet because I haven't done anything too challenging. You'll also notice there are no rock sliders. And that's a pretty questionable decision if you're really going to be off-roading these things. You've got the nice roof rack that sort of helps to make it look a little bit more rugged. On the back, you've got a tow hitch, 5,000 pound towing rating, and a spare tire under the rear cargo platform area instead of on the rear door because the 4Runner still lifts the door up. But you can, in classic 4Runner style, lower that rear window. Again, more recovery hooks back here, and then you've also got this TRD exhaust, which in my opinion is just a little too loud and burbly. It's a V6, it's never gonna sound that good. So when you're on the highway and it's kind of loud and the transmission is struggling between 4th and 5th, you really hear it as opposed to just feeling sort of the lurching because the exhaust is going up to 3,500, 4,000 RPM and going. It's a V6, come on guys. If it was a V8, maybe that exhaust system would be worth it. But you can see sort of the square lines that Toyota designed way back when on this 4Runner. And I was surprised. I thought I wouldn't like it. I see 4Runners all day long in West LA, and I never really dug the style until I got out here and got it nice and dirty. Standing out here looking at it, it looks a little ridiculous because of the Lime Rush paint job. You can get it in a nice charcoal gray that sort of covers up a little bit of the more aggressive design details on the outside here. The design shares a lot of angular details with the Tacoma, but we have to talk about the fact that a 4Runner TRD Pro starts at $53,000 from the factory, and you can't get them at that price. My friend bought one, he waited months to get it, he paid over sticker, and then he drove it once to Sacramento, came home, hated the freeway driving dynamics, immediately sold it back to Toyota, didn't lose any money. And that's what they're doing with these things. You can find them online for 15 over sticker with like 1,000, 7,000, 10,000 miles on them. That's crazy, especially given how outdated they are compared to the competition. But now Toyota has made some efforts to update and modernize the interior. So let's get in there and show you how roomy this body-on-frame SUV is on the inside. Now, I'm 6'1", and I can climb in, no problem. The seat isn't all the way back even. And I sort of lift the seat up and scoot it forward a little higher than I might usually because it's got that big square hood. It's a lot larger of a vehicle perceptually than you might expect. It's got a much bigger hood than my 1998 Mitsubishi Montero, for example, which is something you have to consider when off-roading. And in a certain way, the 4Runner today is sort of the only successor to a vehicle like the Montero, which competed with the 4Runner in period. But of course, this thing is a 2022, so we've got a touchscreen, we've got Apple CarPlay, and we've got a lot of electronic features that control the off-roading settings. It's push button start because this is 2022, and you can hear that exhaust start to rumble. It always dings at me, mostly because it thinks the moonroof is open, even though it's not. The controls don't really make sense. There's a slide button to slide it open and shut, but there's an up and down button that don't have a middle zone. So it goes down and up, and it doesn't have like a stop in the middle. But if you do the slide open from it being down and then you close it again, it goes back to being down. And then it just continually dings at you. So I like sat there fiddling with it and finally got it to level, and now it still thinks it's open. So we've got a touch screen. It's pretty small. I'd call it 8.5 inches or so. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but only wired, which is kind of lame because we know that that's literally just a software update that they could have done to make it wireless CarPlay. Infiniti did that for their whole model lineup for all customers for free, which I really appreciate. Toyota probably decided it wasn't worth it. They'll just wait till the next generation 4Runner comes out, whenever that actually happens. We've been expecting it for like 5 years now. But, you know, overall, it's pretty nice in here. I kind of like it. This material of the dash is like a little textured, and it's nice. The carbon fiber obviously does it for me. All the touch points feel solid and sort of utilitarian. The steering wheel's pretty good. Almost ventilated leather here, but not really. You do have a little bit of this sort of piano black-ish plastic, although this one has some sparkle and metallic flake in it, which is nice. All the controls are just, they're big and beefy, and it's great for when you don't want to be really fine-tuning stuff because you're bouncing around off-road. Which brings up all the off-roading settings on this TRD Pro. You can go from 2 high to 4 high on the fly. To go into 4 low, you got to put it into neutral in the transmission, pretty standard. Then you pop it over, there we go, 4 low. Now it wants to start going, and I can feel that. I had to press the brake a little harder. Popping it back out makes a little noise, 4 high. But up here are more 4-wheel drive settings. So we've got a crawl control setting that's really, in my experience, not great. But it has different adjustments for speed, which I do like, and it's only available in 4 low, which makes sense. Then we've got this control knob, which allows for multi-terrain select, as Toyota calls it. So you can switch between mud, sand, and dirt, loose rock, mogul, and rock. The last 3 of those, again, only available in 4 low. And really, all that does is change the transmission shift point, the throttle sensitivity, and the traction control settings. This car does not have disconnecting sway bars like a Jeep Gladiator Rubicon or a Bronco that might compete at around the same price point. Again, you can't get anything for sticker price anyways, so I can't even go into all of that. I don't have time right now. But Toyota does make a fake disconnecting sway bar setting that comes on the Toyota 4Runner TRD Off-Road, which costs less than this. And a lot of people have mentioned that you can basically get that one and get more off-roading capability than this one. And that's actually a really cool system. I had to Google it. It's a sway bar that connects to the frame via basically another drop link instead of just a bracket holding it on. And then there's a piston on the other side that can go rigid or soften up. And so it basically mimics a disconnecting sway bar, but it doesn't actually disconnect. I'd be curious to try that out and see how it does. because even though the Fox 2.5 shocks on this thing do a great job of sort of gobbling up the little bumps, it does get a fair amount of body roll when you're going through cambered and off-cambered situations. In the modern era, of course, you've got some safety features, you've got adaptive cruise control, you've got lane keep assist, which just dings at you. It doesn't vibrate the steering wheel or steer for you, because I think this thing still has hydraulic steering, unlike so many cars on the market. And the steering's actually really good. It's a plus for the 4Runner. It's got that excellent on-center feel. It returns to center after you turn. It's a little bit heavy. It's perfect on the pavement. And then when you get out here, it's strong enough to assist and not make you tired from going like this on the trail all day long. So I hope that the 4Runner doesn't lose that hydraulic steering when we go to the next generation, but it almost certainly will, so that they can have the lane keep assist that actually does a little bit of semi-autonomous driving like we've seen in the Lexus models. And it is kind of funny. I like the interior of this really more than I like the Lexus RCF Fuji Speedway Edition or the Lexus LC500, both of which can easily cost over $100,000 and don't even have touchscreens. At least we've got the option to use CarPlay with a touchscreen, which is cool because I've been setting up Onyx while off-roading, which allows me to see trails in my vicinity and log where I'm going off-roading, which is a really fun feature that makes off-roading a little bit less stressful because you can sort of know where you're going a little bit better than if you were pulling up paper maps all the time. But of course, a bigger touchscreen would be better. The cameras for front and backing up and side views, terrible pixelation, basically useless. And one day, when it has a bigger screen and better cameras, that might actually help while off-roading or while just backing out of your driveway. Now let's climb into the back seat and see how the 4Runner looks back there with the seat, electrically adjustable seat, set for my height at 6'1". This is my standard test. I always put the seat how I like it and then see how I fit in the back. And my knees touch, but you spread your legs a little bit and it's just fine. Plenty of headroom here. All in all, not bad for back seat of an SUV. And the rear seats do recline a pretty good amount. Of course, that's gonna reduce your rear cargo capacity, which we'll get to in a second. But if you were cruising down the highway, headed for an off-road vacation with 4 friends, maybe even 5, you'd be pretty comfortable back here because these recline more than maybe any SUV I've ever seen before. I like that. I'll put it back up and show you how the seats fold down. Pretty standard. You got a little strap here that you pull, pops up. You've got a handle here, folds the headrest down, and a button, and it slides down just like that. It fits right with my seat at the proper position, which is pretty impressive. The only problem is, and I really don't understand this, that when you put all of them down, this platform is about 1.5 inches higher than the rear cargo floor. And I don't understand that. In this era of overlanding and off-roading, we could make a little sleeping platform here, but now it's just enough to be uncomfortable. So you don't want to sleep in the back. So you'd have to make a more significant sleeping platform. You've got the higher roof here, which is kind of nice. And if you did it to this level and had a little platform here, I think you'd be okay. It's not quite as tall as my Montero, which is still a little bit cramped, but the Montero seats don't fold down like this. They go like this and they're higher, and that sleeping platform would be better a little bit lower, like I think you could do here in the 4Runner. Now let's check out the trunk, because they did do some cool storage stuff back there. Now, one weird part is there is no trunk button on the key fob, so you have to open it by hand. Again, a holdover from a bygone era. But all in all, there's a lot of space back here. I can sit up full on because of the raised roof, and you've got a lot of space for gear. Got my jumper cables, Yankum ropes, my compressor, because I didn't know what I was getting into here. Thought I might have to air down those nittos, but I didn't. And then you've got some storage stuff that I like. On top of the wheel wells, you've got these little areas. I put a paper towel roll in that one, gloves, fire extinguisher, tire pressure gauge in that one. You've got storage over here, which I put the cargo net in because I didn't want to use the cargo net, and your jack. It's a bottle jack, which is nice, and your spare tire gear, I wish that the spare tire was accessible under the trunk instead of from underneath the back, or was on the back door, because then it wouldn't be getting damaged by rocks. And Toyota, come on guys, put a matching fifth wheel on the TRD Pro. That is not a Nitto Terra Grappler under there. I can't tell what it is, but it looks like a touring tire. You've also got a little center pass-through for your ski gear if you take this thing skiing, and I think it would do pretty well in the snow. Little other details that are great. You got pretty good tie downs here in case you wanted to like strap a Volkswagen Type 4 engine in here for your 914 project. But lifting that engine up into here, it's a very long bumper here, which is kind of weird, especially when it's dirty. You can see I'm already getting dirty just climbing in there to sit in there. Altogether, I kind of like the trunk. It's a weird thing to say. I don't think I've ever said that about a vehicle before. But I'm looking for things that make the 4Runner sort of stand out in the modern era. The Bronco's trunk is terrible. It's tiny, especially the Bronco Raptor, which gets so big with the fender flares and the extra fender flares. And then the interior is still teensy tiny. But this thing you could actually haul gear with, and of course you've got the roof rack on top. Now I'm gonna do a review of actually off-roading this thing, so check that out on our YouTube channel coming soon. But for now, I hope you learned something watching this video about what makes the 4Runner so great and so outdated all at the same time. The truth is, if you want a 4Runner, there really isn't anything else like it on the market today. You'll have to pay over sticker, but at the very least, you probably won't ever lose money because these things hold their value like nothing else on the market today. Toyota might have been banking on that for a few too many years, and we can't wait to see what the next generation offers. Are we gonna get a hybrid system? Are we gonna get a 10-speed automatic to get some better highway MPGs? It all remains to be seen. It's a very exciting time because the electric age is definitely coming for the 4Runner, so this might be the very end of an era. Thanks for watching, and as always, before you sign off, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can try to beat the algorithm. Thanks.